We keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM, Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and the NBA season is drawing to an end. We are about to get to the play-in tournament and then the official kickoff of the NBA playoffs, and everybody who is a casual fan of basketball tends to flock into the NBA ecosystem around this time. And there has been a story that has been the underlying conversation this entire season. And it's about the injuries that we've seen, right? From Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, where that has to deal with tanking, to what's going on with Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves, where it has to deal with playoff seeding and load management before a tip off happens when the games matter most. Within that conversation is end of the year awards. Now, for a lot of people, they are just now finding out this new phenomenon that has taken over the NBA conversation. And for those of you who didn't know about this rule, it was implemented in the 2023-2024 season. And essentially, the major thing that you need to know is that you have to play over 65 games. And in those 65 games, you have to play 20 plus minutes. So you can't just show up to a game and check in or be there for tip off, and then you can sub out and you don't have to play the rest of the games. That's not how this works. That's they've closed whatever loophole that we all thought that they would use, right? So Victor Wembanyama, who is not qualified for Defensive Player of the Year, who will be in the MVP conversation, had some interesting thoughts with reporters, an interesting back and forth with some of the beat reporters, some of the national reporters recently, in the last few days about this, how to work around there. Should there be an incentive? Does it make sense? So why don't we go to that clip really fast and we'll come back and talk about it.
Very, very good. Feels like it's a box that's checked. Feels like this season was a lot. Lots of things happened, and that's a good conclusion, to it. Let me ask you a question. Like, what percentage of the season right now, without calculating how much 65 is, what percent of the season do you think should be the limit?
75, 80.
75, 80. Okay.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds. Okay. 70.
Academic, 70% passing.
70%. So,
Be a limit in school.
you don't think it should be a limit? Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. If a guy plays 50 games, 35 minutes a game, that's 50 times 35. That's 1750, right? Am I right? Yeah. And if a guy plays 75 games at 20 minutes, it's 1500. So, it's not. I mean, it's a good view in my opinion to not have a limit. It's one opinion. 75% of the games, in my opinion, would be a logical thing, and that would be 20.5, 61.5 games, right? So 62 games.
By the way, your math on all of those was spot on. Calculating it as you were doing it.
You're doing some numbers like David Robinson.
Of course, the alien gets all.
So, so there's some interesting questions, but I think obviously I don't think there's going to be an exception made for this year. I think it would be somewhat unfair, but we'll see how it turns out.
And that was Victor Wembanyama talking to NBA and beat reporters and his thought. And, impressive math on the fly. I suck at math. So for me, anybody who could do that type of quick math is shout out to them. But let's talk about this for a little bit, okay? Because obviously it's been conversations about LeBron James and Anthony Edwards and Victor Wembanyama and SGA and Giannis. And right now, the NBA is going through an injury problem, a load management problem, but there's so much nuance to that conversation, so much context that is never implemented when we're talking about these type of things. But first, let's just talk about the rule. Should the rule exist? I don't know if we need a steadfast in the rule book rule of how many minutes and how many games a player needs to play. Back in the day, and this is anecdotal, but beat reporters, national reporters, voters knew how to vote for these things, knew the proper way to let the game decide. Ball knows ball, right? So if a player didn't play enough minutes, we didn't need to see the stat sheet. We knew whether or not, and I say we as in royally, voters, fans, pundits knew whether you deserved an award or not, whether you deserve to be all NBA offensive team, defensive team, all NBA in general, whatever it was decided, and you didn't need a rule book to tell you that, at least not back then. Now, because there's so much personality, and that's being nice to certain people in this industry and media, that the voting became part of the story, that the voters became part of the story. And I think that's a disservice, not just to the league, not just to the players, but to the fans, to the sanctity and the I guess, we could say they're sacred to it, but like the purity of the sport is we know who the good players are. We know who deserves recognition. And even when we're doing it at the best of it, there is still petty voting. There are people who, while I may believe Derrick Rose deserved his MVP, people believe LeBron did just as much. The Steve Nash years with Shaquille O'Neal, the Michael Jordan years with Charles Barkley, sometimes they just vote for other people because they get bored. So there's a lot that I understand isn't perfect when it comes to that, but I don't think there needs to be a 10 commandments of what you need to do for end of the year awards. On the player side, though, there needs to be some comp. There needs to be some middle ground between the two parties, because you can't have players and leagues and organizations asking so much for consumers, demanding so much for consumers and cities, and not producing the product that is promised. Players that don't play, players that are game time decisions, players that are late scratches after somebody spend $120 per ticket, has spent $200 on merchandise and concessions, has spent $50 on parking. And what about your TV commitments? Again, I'm not going to cry poor for ESPN, Disney, Amazon, NBC, but you have a contract, a duty, an agreement to give this product. You should want to put your best foot forward on there. So I do think there should be some incentive-based conversation and list, if you will, but it doesn't need to be as strict and as unforgiving as this one is. Because at the end of it, what has the league done to negate some of these problems? Let's be honest. Let's keep it 100% on the table, right? Are the courts getting any bigger? Have they changed the dimensions on the court? Have they changed the rules of the game to progress with the players, with the product? Look at every other sport, right? Even baseball, one of the slowest moving sports, has changed the rules, has changed the communication system. The stadiums are built differently because they have to adjust for the athlete, and it's for the betterment of the athlete. The NFL, the NHL, all the same. The NBA has refused to do so. And you're getting players that get hurt, and it's soft tissue injuries, it's Achilles injuries, it's hamstring injuries, it's injuries that also linger. It's not just these high impact, they're gone for 3 weeks and then they can come back. It's weeks of recovery and then waiting to see how it is come game time when there is stress put on it. This is not just a simple straw man conversation where, the players don't care enough or the owners are greedy. There is a problem. This wasn't the correct solution. And Adam Silver should have done something about it. He should have at one point gone to the owners and be like, look, we're going to put a pause to this rule. We'll go back to normal operations for just this season, and we'll circle back and talk about this during the owners' meetings in the offseason and get this rule right. Nobody likes it. You are heading into the NBA playoffs. There is a changing of the guard for a new generation of players. And the conversation is, end of season awards having unjust voting and decision making and load management and too many games. No league hates itself more than the National Basketball Association. No group of fans love and hate their product more than NBA fans. No media member hates and loves to cover a sport more than people in the NBA. I don't know why. But the NBA also refuses to do changes for the better. At least recently, this regime. And you could talk about player empowerment. I think for one, I've always been one for the worker. I think the worker deserves better. I think you who is listening to us right now, you the Bulls fan, you the NBA fan, you the employee, you deserve better in every way, walk of life. So this is not me saying the NBA player doesn't deserve better. They deserve better and they deserve to hold up their end of the bargain. Same with ownership and the media company. All these people make enough money and have enough vested interest to get this product right. And you deserve the best product possible, because it's not like your life, our life, my life has this type of capability to make things right on an instant like that. That people who deserve the recognition and the compensation can get it with decision making that can happen in an instant. And that can happen right now with the NBA owners, the PA, and Adam Silver. There should be a rule. There should be some type of, whether it's unwritten, unspoken, or hell, if you just want to put it on a napkin, yeah, you should be able to do this and you will be eligible for award season. But I don't want to hear the owners complaining about players wanted to have load management and worrying about their minutes and their bodies when the owners are not willing to give up games, not willing to give up any of that revenue. And the math has been done. There can be enough games taken away from the schedule that doesn't impact the national media deals with Amazon, NBC, and any of the other big players. But the owners still don't want to give up their home games, their home revenue. So it goes back to corporate greed, all of this. And you're the one who pays for it. So I think Victor Wembanyama has a point. I do think some of these players have a point when it comes to the ridiculousness that is these hard, fast numbers and games and minutes that need to be played for award season. But I also do think you lay in the bed that you laid, that you set up for yourself. And that's what these players did. So there are no innocent people in this conversation. The only people who are innocent are the consumers of it, because they don't get the product they deserve. But I want to know your thoughts. Should there be a limit? Should players have to play an X amount of games? Should they have to play an X amount of minutes in order to be eligible for postseason awards, for end of the season awards? Should NBA owners be more flexible with the schedule and their home games? Should the commissioner intervene? Or is it going to come down to the media companies making these final decisions? We want to know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below right here on YouTube at The Sports Cubicle, or leave a comment wherever you find us, wherever you get your favorite shows, over at The Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch. We have a whole lot left on this edition of the show right here on The Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM Chicago, right here on YouTube at The Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado.